Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. It's Black Friday, so I'm hoping all of you have recovered from the turkey hangovers from yesterday. Once again, we're going to talk some turkey, or rather, Trypticon, as a special video, as I have right here the 1986 Generation 1 Trypticon, and right over here, the towering colossus, that is the Titan's Return Trypticon. So, we're going to do a comparison review between these two behemoths and see which one is the one that you would like for your collection. Now, first things first, to get out of the way, and the obvious, is the size difference. As we can see, the modern Trypticon is roughly almost twice the size of the original Trypticon. Well, maybe 1.5 times the size of the original Trypticon. The Generation 1 version was a motorized toy, whereas the modern version is not motorized. But at any rate, let's take a good look at these two toys and see what we can come up with about them. The Generation 1 Trypticon was one of the base playsets that was available in 1986. He would be released alongside the Autobot counterpart Metroplex. Of course, what differentiated the two of them was Trypticon here was a motorized toy with 2 C-cell batteries in his tail. In robot mode here, Trypticon could walk when this switch right here was pressed. Before he walks himself off the table here. Now, as we all know, that was a fun feature for us back when we were growing up. Let him walk a little bit so he gets straight. That's better. Well, this was a fun play feature to have with Trypticon, and it certainly set him up to be more like Omega Supreme than Metroplex. It also limited Trypticon's articulation, as we really couldn't manipulate the arms or legs very well due to the motorized actions. Basically what we got was we could open and close his mouth, and we could lower and raise his head a little bit. And that was about it. So he kind of loses out a lot due to being a motorized toy in the terms of articulation. Now, of course, this massive monster, the Titan's Return version, since it does not have any motorized functions, he is fully posable in all sorts of ways. We can tilt his head back up like so. And we can bring it down. We can also open his mouth considerably wider. Of course, he does have a feature where we can drop the little Titan Masters down his throat. The whole toy is hollow, so they can be retrieved out his tail. His little arms do rotate at the shoulder all the way around. Just got to be careful around the leg. The arms do bend at the elbows and at the wrist. And of course, we can open up his clawed hand that far. Or close it up tight like that, so he can probably grip small transformer. Adjust the camera here. And of course, down here at his legs, we can rotate his legs up and back. And he does have a joint at the knees. Listen to that ratcheting. That's a beautiful sound. And there is a bit of a joint at the ankle that allows for great stability on this toy. But of course, when you get this guy out of the box, you have to slide the assemble him by putting your legs on him. Now, I love the improvement on the posability on this toy, because believe me, this is fun. This guy is fun to fondle around a bit, but he also is far from perfect, too. This is the chest plate here. It is a bit on the heavy side, and as such, this does frequently pop loose with little to no effort, so that does get a little annoying at times. Especially if you're trying to pose him or display him in any particular way, that just gets in the way and gets annoying. But in terms of posability, he definitely has the G1 version beat in so many ways. Let's take a brief look now at the one sidekick that both Trypticon toys have. This is Full Tilt. Over here is the Generation 1 version, and over here is the Titan's Return version. And as you can see, there is quite a considerable difference between the two, but at least it's also nice to see that the newer version does pay some homage to the Generation 1 original. Both in the way that he's transformed in the alternate mode, and even the gun does pay a lot of homage to the original toy. Anyway, we'll bring the original one a little closer. As you can see, he holds his gun on the side of his arm instead of properly in his fist. And aside from the stickers, he's pretty plain in comparison. As far as articulation goes, all he had was that you could rotate him at the arm, at the shoulder, and he could bend at the knees. But that was mainly more for transforming him than anything else. The newer version, however, beats that 8 ways from Sunday. Since the head is a Titan Master, you're able to turn the head all the way around and even crane it to some degree side to side. The shoulder is held together with a ball joint, so it's able to rotate freely and be brought in like so or out like that. There's a joint at the bicep that also allows the arm to rotate like so. And while he's jointed at the wrist, it's more for transforming him than any other purposes. Does have ball joints at his hips, so it does allow him to do a full splits. Or you can also raise his leg up about so far, and he does have a joint at the knee, so you can bend him at the knee about 90 degrees. So, that's their robot modes. Let's flip them into car mode and take a look at that. Now we take a look at them in their car modes, and you can clearly see that the Titan's Return version does take a lot of inspiration from its Generation 1 counterpart, as they both pretty much turn into the same type of vehicle, which from some angles almost comes off looking like the Tumbler Batmobile from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Not entirely, but it does. The design of the vehicle obviously does take some design cue, there is some similarities between the two vehicles. At any rate, the G1 version, how does it roll? He rolls pretty good here on this smooth surface. What about the new one? Well, he rolls a little better, but I'd say the difference is marginal between the two toys. But of course, the big one has the added advantage of the fact it does have a cockpit where the Titan Master can sit at the controls. But other than that, I'd say these two versions are about equal in this mode. And of course, lastly, we'll take a look at each one's exclusive sidekick. The G1 version had Brunt, which was a little tank built out of the extra tower pieces and such for its city mode. And the Titan's Return version has the Titan Master Necro. And of course, Brunt here, while he's a tank, he does roll on very squeaky wheels. Rolls pretty good on that surface, but God, that sounds like claws on a chalkboard. But he also, with the help of a AA battery inside here, his laser cannon lights up to simulate firing. Whereas Necro here is pretty much your standard Titan Master. Turn his head a little bit from side to side, raise his arms up, and of course he can bend at the hip and bend at the knees. And that's about it. You really can't do too much with Necro. He's more just to be doubling his full tilts driver or head. So I think of the two of them, I think I prefer having Brunt, despite the squeaky wheels. One last bonus before we start showing them off in their alternate modes. I wanted to show off their boxes to you, as I do happen to have both boxes. Those of you who are around for the first run of Trypticon, you knew that already. But here's the Generation 1 box. Something of a treat for those of you younger viewers. This was how they were promoted to us in the toy aisle. As you can see, we get a very big picture of Trypticon, and of course we get to see the city mode. Down there in the corner it has the Rolling Fortress mode and advertised that he could walk. Of course, down here in this corner was an advertisement for a poster and a sweepstakes that was going on with the release of Transformers the movie. Considerably better movie than what Michael Bay ever gave us. On most of the sides of the box, we got to see a lot of this, which is basically close-up of the actual toy, and to see the other modes without the other toys on there. And of course we got a listing over here of all the pieces. They would repeat this down on the bottom of the box, except it'd be in purple. On the sides of the box, more or less get the same thing. They really didn't get that creative with the side of the box. On the back of the box, we got a nice large picture. They did a different mural every year, and it kind of highlighted a lot of the different toys that were available for us. As you can see, Trypticon's right here at the top. And they got Metroplex down here. This was highlighting a lot of the different combiners and heroes and villains that were available that year. And then they kind of did a simplistic transformation along the sides. Of course, these pictures were taken with the prototype of the toy, not the final product, because as you can see down here, Full Tilt is in considerably different colors than what the final toy was released. And of course, down here at the bottom, we have this yellow box for this version to go with the contest. If the contest wasn't on there, then it wouldn't have this box. We had here what was called the tech specs. We were encouraged to clip these off and collect them so we knew what the character was capable of doing. And we get some vital statistics here with a special decoder. And then right here was the robot points. When we were young, we were encouraged to clip these points for mail-away offers. Unfortunately, us Transformer fans kind of got the short end of the deal on it. We didn't get a whole lot of real exclusives. A lot of them that we got were pretty much guys that had been taken off the shelves. We kind of got hosed on it. The G.I. Joe fans got a little bit better of a selection than what we did. Now, of course, we'll take a look at the Titans Return version box. As we can see, we get a very animated picture of Trypticon in battle, which also features Sky Shadow and Six Shot in there. Of course, this was the Generations version. Of course, I got him pretty cheap. Found this one at Ollie's. Highly recommend, if you're looking for this one, try your neighborhood Ollie's first before you try it online. Because as you can see, $50 is a considerably better price than $140. But over here on this side, it does show all three modes: the robot, the spaceship, and the city mode. And of course, it lists all the characters down here: Decepticon Necro and Decepticon Full Tilt. And of course, Trypticon. Obviously, for trademark reasons, they can't use Full Tilt and Necro without Decepticon in front of them. Bring down here the top of the box. Get a nice view of the Decepticon logo. They show off Necro here as the Titan Master and show he becomes the head. We get to see Full Tilt, Trypticon, and then here it identifies the different modes. Instead of the battle station, it's now a spaceship mode. And of course we have city mode. Bottom of the box is pretty much plain. We got the Transformer logo here on the side and a bunch of legal stuff over here. Apparently this one was distributed in Australia. Oh well. It reminds me, I haven't heard from my Australian friend in a while. Okay. On the sides here, we just get a close-up of Trypticon and the Titans Return bit. Then, of course, here on the back side, we pretty much get to see all sorts of the different modes and a few of the toys all there in it. They show a bunch of other toys with it and warn us here, figures highlighted in yellow are sold separately and subject to availability, as they did release and pull them off the shelves relatively quickly, I've noticed. Anyway, right here we got Trypticon, and they show how to remove Full Tilt and go all the way there with him. And then we got the spaceship mode, and we got the city mode here, and down here they show Trypticon can eat the little Titan Masters, and you can retrieve them from his tail. And they show that apparently here, Necro, the Titan Master, is compatible with these different toys. So you at least have that as a play value. Alrighty, let's start transforming these guys into the different modes and let's show them off. Here we go with an overhead shot of Generation 1 Trypticon in city mode. And we were given quite a bit of play features with this city. We had a couple of ramps here along the sides where we could park. These platforms allowed us to park a couple of Combaticons or Stunticons. And of course, we had a couple of helipads on the side. Even though we only had one helicopter in the form of Vortex, you at least had a choice as to where you put him. We had this large ramp here in the center that full tilt predominantly could be launched down, but you could put any of the others on there. Pushing a button here at the back of the tower would raise the ramp and launch him down. Gotcha. And of course, as we still had the motorized function here, turning on the switch here would rotate the satellite dishes. But as an added bonus, Trypticon came with a pair of connectors so we could attach Onslaught and Motormaster in their ramp modes to the sides, and we could expand the playset even further. So this was quite a highlight for us back in the day. Now we'll look at Trypticon Titan's Return version in his city mode, and as you can see, it does the central area does pay a lot of homage to the Generation 1 version. We have a nice long ramp in the middle and a couple of side ones. Of course, since he's considerably bigger, he can hold some larger transformers on him, so that's always a plus. The thing I don't like about it is the central tower, since it pretty much the way the instructions read, it keeps full tilt locked in, when in reality, full tilt here should be loose to be played with in this mode, since what's the point of having this main launch ramp if you don't have somebody to roll down it? Of course, the sides are still ugly because there's nothing much going on with the legs. But like the original version, it does allow for two others to be combined to it. Because over here we've got Overlord. And over here we have Sky Shadow. They can be set next to Trypticon to form a larger city. What the instructions refer to as Nemesis Command. But truth be told, I like it better on the Generation 1 version. So, I mean, yeah, you were still basically setting Onslaught and Motormaster next to Trypticon, but they gave connectors so that they could connect, and they felt a little more attached to the base, whereas these guys are just sitting there next to it. And that's just plain dumb, folks. To be honest with you, that's just dumb. So I know in Sky Shadow's instructions, it does show him being connected to a lot of the other toys to form a different city alongside Fortress Maximus and Six Shot and Blaster and Soundwave. And that makes use of the little ramp pieces here, like that's on Trypticon, but none of the instructions for the three of these guys show the similar use. They just show sit him right next to it here, and then that's fine. And no, that's not fine. That's stupid. It totally defeats the purpose. Oh well, maybe the other modes will look a little better. Now we have what was known as the Battle Station mode for the Generation 1 Trypticon. And it doesn't hold a lot of frills to it, so to speak, but it is pretty well loaded with guns. Of course, we do have these platforms here on the side. We could probably put Stunticons or Combaticons there, and they could add their guns for extra firepower. Of course, this version does roll on a lot of wheels. It's pretty heavy, so it can't free roll very well. So you do have to push it yourself, and only on a really decent smooth surface. Which is kind of why I'm using this on poster board. We are not going to scratch up this beautiful table underneath. And of course, the motorized function is still available here. Flipping the switch will activate the guns to rotate here on the side. Not really all that useful, but sort of fun in a way. And of course, we also can still light up the big cannon at the top. Now here, of course, is Trypticon in his other mode, a spaceship, which is somewhat reminiscent of the Battle Station mode of the G1 version, but done up in something that's purportedly a little more practical. But I will say it does borrow heavily from, it does take a lot of inspiration from the G1 mode. Because it is in a similar mode, similar shape, just doesn't have all the guns bristling, and that's a debate as to whether or not that's better or worse. You know, I think that's more a matter of personal opinion than anything else. Meanwhile, me personally, I kind of liked him bristling with all the guns. I will have to say this mode does have its own interesting factor in it as well. I just don't think it has quite the play value that the Battle Station mode did have, but I'm sure this would look pretty imposing on a young child's floor, to say the least. Of course, this version is, like the original one, on wheels. It's also very heavy, so it will require some physical effort to roll it, but it does roll pretty good on a smooth surface. Carpet, I can imagine, would be a pain to try to roll him on, so I would say don't waste your breath on that, folks. But still, it is a nice tribute to the Generation 1 version, but also has its own unique identity with it. So, I can like that. I can like that. Now we get down to my final thoughts. What do I think of the two toys? I've always been a fan of the Generation 1 version. I sort of had him as a child because I bought a version at the flea market very late in my childhood and spent a lot of years trying to get him complete. I was impressed greatly by how the new one does look and how much homage it does pay to the original, and I'm always going to be grateful to Hasbro for making some homage to the original toy. But of the two, after going over them side by side, I'm clearly going with the Generation 1 version. I mean, yeah, he lacks the articulation that the new one has, but, however, the motorized feature, well, that's a debate as to whether we can live with it or not, but it does have some play value to it. and both of his alternate modes are pretty good. The city mode does have a lot of play value, especially for somebody like me growing up. All I had were the smaller Transformers. I very seldom got one of the larger ones, so I would have loved to have had Trypticon as a kid and been able to fully utilize him growing up, because that would have been a nice thing to play with. Of course, the defense-based mode, I could see myself coming up with different ways and different Decepticons to put on him to increase his firepower potential. So that I would have had some fun with. The new version here, well, that's when we start getting into tricky territory. The articulation on the dinosaur mode is superb. That's gonna be a great feature for him. The ability to swallow the little Titan Masters, that's debatable. Yeah, it's a play feature, but seeing as it really wasn't utilized in the Prime Wars cartoon at all, excuse me, I really don't see it being of much use. Now, I mean, if there's another bit of media that utilized that, please feel free to say so in the comments, and I'll check it out. The city mode, it's pretty good. It does pay nice homage to the original, and with the more of a selection of Transformers about the right size to fit on him to be played with, that I could see being of some play value to the modern generation. The expanded city mode, I'm not a fan of, folks, because I think that was kind of stupid and just seems like a waste. If you're going to put them where they can combine together to form a larger city, combine them so they form a larger city. Standing them next to each other is not a play set. The G.I. Joe fans went through that with the Future Fortress back in 1987. That's what this reminds me of in that mode. And that was a stupid idea then. It's a stupid idea now. The spaceship mode on Trypticon, it's not bad. It does pay homage to the battle station mode of the original, but it kind of lacks a lot. It just feels like there should be more to it. And of course, at the size that he is, a fair amount of young children aren't going to be able to pick him up and fly him around a lot. He's going to be a hazard to pick up and fly, so he's more going to be confined to the carpet. And even with having somewhat bigger wheels than the original, he's not going to go across the carpet very easily. So, I still say the original is the better of the two. But that's just one man's opinion, and it may not necessarily reflect yours. But do feel free to share your thoughts of Trypticon in the comments down below. Which one do you like? Do you like the original, or do you like the newer version? Please let me know. I'm interested to hear your opinions. And that concludes my comparison of the Generation 1 versus Titan's Return version of Trypticon. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. Also, if you're a new viewer, hit that subscribe button down below and join up within our ranks. Also consider ringing the bell so you'll be notified of any future videos. This is Sparkster1701, returning all of you to your turkey hangovers, and I'll catch you all later.